Thanks, David, for his great sharing. Some users want more decentralized data storage. Some want faster development tools. Others want easier ways of on-chain asset analysis, etc. All of these are inseparable from the improvement of infrastructure. In this panel, guest speakers will have an in-depth discussion on Web3 infrastructure.
感谢 David 带来的精彩分享。下面进入圆桌环节。随着 Web3 的深入发展，人们的需求也更多样化。有的人想要数据更加去中心化的存储，有的想要更快捷的开发工具，还有的想要更方便的在链上实现资产分析等等。这一切都离不开基础设施的完善。在这场圆桌中，嘉宾们将围绕 Web3 基建展开深入探讨。
Let's welcome the guest speakers. They are Alex Svanevik, Nansen CEO, Camenisch, DFINITY Foundation CTO, Marouen Zelleg, Strategic Sales Director of ConsenSys, Wilson Wu, Head of Avalanche Asia, Zuriel Photon Storage CEO. Also, please welcome our moderator, Anndy Lian, Founding Member of Broadcast.
下面有请各位嘉宾，他们分别是 Nansen CEO Alex Svanevik, DFINITY Foundation CTO Camenisch, ConsenSys 战略销售总监 Marouen Zelleg, Head of Avalanche Asia Wilson Wu, Photon Storage CEO Zuriel。同时有请本桌圆桌主持人 Broadcast 创始成员 Anndy Lian。让我们用热烈的掌声有请各位嘉宾上台。
Hi, a very good afternoon to everybody. We have a good panel today, and we are going to discuss about Web3 infrastructure, the present and the future, obviously. So we have about 40 minutes to have a good discussion. So first of all, maybe we will start off with a quick introduction. Starting from yourself, introduction. Thanks.
Hi guys, I'm Zuriel, CEO of Photon Storage. I've been introduced to Bitcoin in my cryptography class in 2012 and instantly loved the idea of decentralization and anti-inflation. Therefore, I become the early Bitcoin GPU miner and choose to all in crypto after graduation. For the last 4 years, I've been CTO of a well-known blockchain company in China. Last year, I was exposed to many Web3 startups and found that the lack of storage infrastructure actually restrict their product design. So my partner now and I start build Photon, a storage protocol.
Thank you. Wilson?
Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Wilson. I'm leading the Asia market for Avalanche. Before I joined crypto, so that was before 2018. I had worked in the traditional financial market for around 15 years. Then just pretty lucky to join the blockchain crypto market, bumping into my previous investor, and I find it's pretty interesting. But the really bad thing at that time was we were entering into a bearish market in 2018, and that was right after we visited Singapore in one of the events. But after the 2 or 3 years, we experienced the market up and downs. We're still in this market, and luckily I'm in Avalanche leading this market, start from broader China, then now we're expanding to other parts of Asia. So now we're building a base in Singapore. So we're building a strong layer 1 with strong consensus, and on top of it, we're building our ecosystems and communities. Yeah, so welcome and enjoy our new layer 1 place. It's competitive, but that's fun. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. My name is Marouen. I represent ConsenSys here in APAC. So for those of you who may not know ConsenSys, we really focus on the Web3 enablement, both on the users with MetaMask, but also on the developer ecosystem. Myself, before joining the Web3, I was a technology advisor, worked a lot with what we call now Web2 companies, doing a lot of digital transformation, launching applications and so on. And of course, I saw a great need for decentralization and some really strong use cases in that space. And there is no better place actually to do that than to join one of the companies that is founding Ethereum and the ecosystem around it. I'll be happy to meet all of you later on. I would love to hear about your projects and understand how we can support you to launch on a decentralized Web3 infrastructure. Thank you.
Great. Jan.
Good afternoon, I'm Jan. I'm in crypto since 25 years when it was still called cryptography. Now happy to be in crypto, also learning about the financial aspects as well. And at DFINITY we're building or extending the internet with compute, like a blockchain that can extend the internet to compute capacity. And so that's why Web3 is very interesting, because that's actually a main enabler to Web3, as we believe.
Hello everyone, my name is Alex Svanevik. I'm the CEO and one of the 3 co-founders at Nansen. My own background is initially in artificial intelligence. I've been working in the crypto space since 2017. And Nansen, if you don't know it, is a blockchain analytics platform. So you can use it to surface the signal on what happens on the blockchain. We have more than 130 million addresses tagged up so that you can not only see the transactional data that comes through from blockchains like Avalanche, Ethereum, and others, but you can also see which entities and certain behavioral characteristics of the different addresses on the blockchain. Happy to be on the panel.
That's great. Also a quick introduction about myself. I started in the space in 2017, and then the Blockcast is one of the companies that I've invested, but mostly I'm being known in the space for being rather pro-government. So at my peak, you know, I was giving advice through another organization, intergovernmental organization, to 22 countries. I was also active in South Korea and also in Mongolia. So good to meet everybody. So maybe the first question that I have, you know, we'll go to Alex. As we all know, data is a crucial part and the essential infrastructure of the digital economy. With its value amplified in Web3, what I want to ask is, what do you think about the part of data in Web3, and how do you generate more value from the data on the blockchain, Alex?
Yeah, so I think one of the unique characteristics of the whole blockchain space is transparency. So if you compare that to either traditional finance, or if you compare it to Web 2 or Web 1, you have a lot of siloed information, and you don't have a lot of insight into what actually happens in the different systems. With blockchain, you have a lot of transparency. And so this transparency is, of course, good for when you have somewhat disastrous events that happen. A recent one that comes to mind was the depegging of UST, for example, on Luna, and to try to understand what actually happened there. Who were the main parties that were involved? There were a lot of conspiracy theories around which entities were involved in the depegging. And because you have this transparency and you have data that comes from blockchains, we could actually investigate that in a short amount of time. And if you compare that to something like Lehman Brothers in traditional finance, imagine how many doors you've had to knock on to get the insight that you need to understand what actually happened, right, in the great financial crisis of 2008. But it's also useful for more positive purposes. So to understand what are people actually buying and selling on the blockchain. So if you want to trade NFTs, you might want to understand what are the top influencers buying. If someone has a good track record of investing in NFTs, maybe you want to follow the next NFT collection that they're minting or trading. And the same thing with DeFi as well. If you want to see who are the pioneers using DeFi protocols for the first time, the transparency of the blockchain enables that. So I think those are a few different ways that data can be very helpful for investors in particular, and anyone who is a market participant trying to understand what happens in the Web3 space.
Okay, that's a good one. Maybe my second question will go to Marouen, right? So ConsenSys has been a strong pioneer, in building up Web3 infrastructure, and MetaMask is one of the most popular wallets in crypto, with more than 30 million MAU. So my question is, do you think the wallets will be the core way for referral in maybe a referral traffic in Web3? And can you share with us, besides MetaMask, do you have any other layout in building Web3 infrastructure? Marouen.
All right, hold on, this is going to take a while. So the mission of ConsenSys is essentially to build this decentralized internet that we are all after. We do this in two major buckets. The first one is really focusing on the users of this internet, and the second bucket is focusing on the developers and the builders of this internet. And so MetaMask obviously plays that big role in the user focus. And the main idea of MetaMask and the push behind it is really to create a safe zone, a safe space for users to be able to interact with the Web3. And so this could, for example, mean onboarding your assets easily, swapping your assets with efficiency without problems, but also creating some sort of safe spaces for avoiding scams, avoiding malicious interactions on this decentralized internet. The main idea is that you are the own custodian of your assets, and so really to operate in this space, you need a tool and you need an ecosystem that is just more than a tool that allows you to do that in a secure way. Now, on the other side, where it comes to building this internet, ConsenSys actually focuses a lot on the infrastructure and on the tools that are given to the developers to work on this. And there is a bunch of things that we do. Perhaps actually the ones to focus on are the typical developer tools. So we have a platform called Truffle that allows people to really spin out their smart contracts quickly and deploy much faster, and also benefit from whatever has been tested and tried. The other part, of course, is to do security and diligence on these smart contracts. So that's a big aspect of our operations and our contribution to the space. But then finally, because of the nature of Web3 and its requirement for interaction with blockchains, public chains, and today there is, of course, many of them. There is popular ones such as Ethereum and others, and there is ones that are up and coming. We do focus a lot on providing an infrastructure business. So one of the products some of you may know, it's called Infura. So Infura is essentially an API for developers to be able to interact with chains, do it in a performant way, do it in a reliable way, but also maybe benefit for some APIs to mint your NFTs and so on. And so we look at this whole space as a flywheel. We want to enable people to build good applications, resilient, performant applications that can then be interacted with by the users using the right tools, and MetaMask obviously is a big gateway for that. So we engage in every problem by looking at it from both user and developer point of view and try to streamline that flywheel.
Thank you. I think both gentlemen has given very good insights on the Web3 matters and so forth, especially from Alex, because I'm actually writing a book about NFT titled From Zero to Hero. I was sharing with some of my community members, about how data can actually help to also, fight scams, but also help you to make money, just by looking at Etherscan. Perhaps that's something interesting to chat about. I will go on for the next question. Yeah. So the public chains are the base of Web3. It has developed for years and now is a highly competitive market. So this next question is for Jan, Zuriel, and Wilson. Could you please share with us on how you position your public chains in Web3? And do you have any plans to promote the public chain ecosystem?
Yeah, so I guess we all seem to agree that Web3 means that users own applications. Yeah, and so that means the blockchain is sort of the best platform for that, because then applications can tokenize, they can have governance with these tokens on-chain. And I guess what is also important, though, is that you can go further, right? That the whole application itself actually is run on the blockchain, and that's what we're focusing on with the internet computer, making sure that the applications are then also like 100% tamper-proof, unstoppable. Like the chain can actually serve web directly to the user. So with your mobile phone, with your browser, you can connect to the internet computer, to the blockchain. There's no intermediary needed. It has to be at web speed. It has to be fast, efficient, scalable, of course. When you build something like we have on the internet computer, for instance, open chat, like a chat application, when that scales to the level of Facebook, of course, the whole chain needs to scale with that as well. Another thing that I believe is very important is that when users interact with applications hosted on a blockchain, that there's a low barrier entry, right? So users shouldn't be required to go and buy tokens first before they can interact with those applications. And on the internet computer, we do that with like what is called what we call like a reverse gas model, that actually the application has to pay for that and can raise funds with users. But if you want, even the internet computer itself is like a Web3 application. It's governed by what we call the network nervous system, which is a DAO, probably the biggest DAO in existence, according to total value locked. And that's something I'm very excited about. We're in a few weeks, just in the last stages of releasing what we call the service nervous system, which is an extension of the NNS to applications. So that can, with a press of a button, really like tokenize itself, become part of the decentralized governance framework of the blockchain. And more importantly, also this tokenization allows people who build an application like anywhere in the world tokenize their applications and then actually raise funds for that, right? I mean, so far you probably have to be somewhere in Silicon Valley to have access to venture capital and all of that. Now with the blockchain, which has a financial instrument already, like tokenizing your dApp, you can also raise funds. And so in support of that, I mean, we just launched the internet computer like a year ago, a little bit more, and we're continuing building out. We have like a 20-year plan with more features. So we're also going to release Bitcoin integration, so the smart contract can hold Bitcoin themselves, and so on and so forth. I invite you to go to our website. You can see a roadmap of what is all coming. We just started, and we have like hundreds of applications already that are building, and I can't wait to see like many of you guys do your own applications, tokenize them, and become Web3 heroes.
Thank you, Jan. Wilson, what about you?
Yeah, for the Avalanche, actually, now since our mainnet launch back to 2020, we have developed significantly in terms of infrastructures, product building, and community building. So I always describe to people, says, if you look at a new ecosystem, it's more like a city. So if you think Bitcoin is like Beijing, or Ethereum is like more Shanghai, but all the new layer ones more like Shenzhen. So it's more like a new place, new city, you start building from scratch. There are probably 50 to 100 more mature apps on top, but still needs a lot of strong building on top. So in order to build an ecosystem, you need two things. One is you need a lot of like good companies, so basically good projects that really drives the use case of the token rather than just a money game. And the second one is users. So initial stage, we have developed a long time to build a very community-driven, organic user base. Even for ourselves, sometimes when we do event promotion in the community, we don't even like give rewards in the front and then action behind. So we rather do action than, okay, sometimes we give reward. So the ecosystem become really organic. Then in terms of product, we have developed our core advantages at ConsenSys. So ConsenSys we always describe as an engine of a car, or it's like a chip for the handphones. So we want to do is that we don't want to just build a handphone and say, okay, you use this. What we want to do is that we build a chip, but you can build like Samsung, you can build Xiaomi, you can build Huawei, whatever. You can build on top of it to create that kind of diversification and the real use case for people to use it, because the demand it's from the user, and we provide such infrastructure. But after building the core, we have the C chain that utilize EVM on top. You can use the virtual machine to run your whatever smart contract. But also, how about for other people, they want to expand or scale, or they want to have their own room and space? Okay, so we have subnets. We allow them to scale on top of the ConsenSys. So you can build subnet even with very little cost, and you can have EVM on top, you can have other virtual machine on top, or you even can create your own virtual machine on top. So it opens up the possibility for users to come in. And then for the usability, I think the next stage in terms of Web3, we should move into the direction it's much easier for users to use and adopt. So say, for example, we build a bridge called Avalanche Bridge. And in order for users to much easier to adopt to the ecosystem, for people to deposit more than $75, we give it an airdrop of AVAX tokens. So that means once you are new enter into the ecosystem, you can directly utilize the wallet and start playing the ecosystem. So many of these we're getting in the position to enrich the ecosystem, to build a much richer layer on the infrastructure, to build a much stronger communities. So eventually, it's just like a city. So how do we do is like we build a nice city, we attract people, then we have good company, and then it runs into a positive cycle. So maybe you can feel it's more crowded in Singapore now, and it's crowded for a reason. So this is how actually we're building a nice ecosystem, make it crowded, but make it efficient, and make it easy to use for everyone.
Good points, because I think a strong B2B, B2C model, with good products is a good way to build up the public chain. What about you, Zuriel?
Okay, so I just realized that Photon is the only storage protocol in this panel. It reminds me that Alan Turing invented his first automatic computer engine in 1948. 80 years later, IBM unleashed the first hard disk. It seems like the computing naturally developed faster than storage, because it first let people realize how powerful it is, while storage help computing apply in more fields. But in the end, computing and storage are the two pillars of any Silicon Valley enterprise. Google, Facebook, TikTok's most profitable product is built on big data and artificial intelligence. So in the blockchain industry, there are many computing chains, and they are doing a great job, like Solana, Avalanche, and my favorite, Internet Computer. There are millions of NFT created on top of them. I just learned like some music company want put the copyrights into the NFT. So if you bought the NFT, you can get a share of the copyright proceeds of the song, and also like tiny share of the copyright proceeds of the songwriters. But there's one problem still remains. How much revenue that song made is still a number from centralized company. If the musician can like upload the song to a high performance storage protocol, and the protocol can handle millions of listeners directly stream it. Actually, the usage data is already in the Web3. With some Oracle server, we can commit the usage data to the NFT's corresponding chain. Then we actually create a closed loop in the Web3. So Photon will not focus on smart contract. We will focus on provide a high-performance storage protocol. We are kind of like the symbiotic relationship with all the non-storage blockchain. For example, so you can create a Web3 YouTube and put all the business logic in the ICP. However, all the video stream will be handled by Photon. So we promote our ecosystem by focusing on the innovative project in other blockchains. If they have excellent idea but struggle with like a data storage infrastructure, we offer help.
Thanks for the insights. I think we still have a good amount of time. You know, the next question is for everyone. You know, if you walk the ground a lot, you know, you will hear a lot of our own peers, you know, which are all crypto native. They say that, hey man, we are Web3. We're not going to play with those Web2 guys. You know, but then we have another school of thoughts where we are trying our very best to convert some of these traditional Web2 companies into the Web3, right? And of course, the panelists here would agree that Web3 is the future, right? So my question to everyone is, which is more important? Are we going to stick with, you know, oh, we are just Web3, we are just going to, you know, build our own ecosystem and not going to integrate with the traditional guys? Or do you think we should really work together? You know, Alex, you first.
Yeah, I think there's a few different ways to look at that. Maybe one analogy we could make is back to when newspapers had to decide if they wanted to engage with the internet or not in the 90s and early 2000s. Now, in hindsight, it might seem pretty obvious that the right move is to go online and create digital newspapers, but back then that wasn't obvious to a lot of newspaper companies. And so what some newspaper companies did was actually to spin out separate entities that were independent of their legacy entities, and then they had them basically disrupt their own business. So traditionally, if you wanted to sell your house, you know, your car, you would put up ads in a paper newspaper. And so this moved, of course, online pretty fast, and you got classified websites and so on. And I think to some extent, you know, Web2 companies, but maybe more importantly, banks, so traditional finance companies, are faced with a similar dilemma today. So in my opinion, of course, I believe that blockchains will be the financial fabric of the future. And if that's true, then basically if you're running a bank, you're going to have to come on board with that, or you're going to be left behind in the dust, right? So I think anyone who's worked at a bank knows that the technology that's behind those banking services is outdated. It's legacy, and no one really wants to work with that type of technology. And of course, blockchains might be a way to replace that legacy technology. When it comes to Web2 companies, though, I think maybe it's a bit harder to say. Obviously, Web2, there are many very strong Web2 companies. They're naturally very technology-oriented already. So it's not as clear-cut that there is an obvious upgrade on every optimization metric if you switch to Web3. But I do think that the fundamental premise of users being owners of the assets, the digital assets that they're operating with, is a premise that makes a lot of sense. And eventually, if you're dealing with gaming, if you're dealing with social networks, users might just start demanding that they can actually own these assets themselves. So I think it's a bit more unclear with Web2 companies. With banks, traditional finance, I think I have higher confidence that we're definitely going into a blockchain-powered future. But yeah, so it's a little bit more nuanced with Web2, I think.
Great. I think bank is a good use case, to be very honest. As for the Web2 to Web3, I think the revenue model is something that is really, you know, quite a pain, you know, to all these companies. Jan, what are your comments?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, what we see on the internet computer is that some, you know, like Web2 companies are probably just being replaced by Web3 things. That on the internet computer now, we already have tabs that replace Medium or do what Medium does, what Reddit does, what LinkedIn does, what Spotify does, all of that. So we have, for each of them, we have applications. Some of them are already very successful after a short time. So for instance, we have Discover, which is like a Reddit clone. It has like 90,000 users already. And even some communities that moved from Facebook over to their platform. So it's like you can just move Facebook. I guess you have to move users and replace some of the Web2 companies. On the other hand, like we would not build out Web3 correctly if we wouldn't allow to interface with some Web2 services, right? Because I mean, Web2 became big because the internet is like this composable thing where things can call out to other things. Yeah, and we need to do the same on Web3, right? And of course, within Web3, you could have services that call each other, right? I mean, like Farmville on Facebook, sort of used Facebook. We want to have the same on Web3, and also in a way that it can't be shut down if people change their APIs. So I think that is important. But on the other hand, also smart contracts need to be able to call out. Like if you have a centralized exchange and that's where you depend on your price data, then you need to be able to call out to that and get that data in, right? And maybe it shouldn't be done as it is today, like oracles that add yet another trust assumption. This kind of thing needs to be natively built into blockchain. And then I also see like same for insurances. Maybe some insurances might move over, right? But maybe you could also just create your own like Web3 insurance, your own smart contract insurance. And we've seen in the traditional paper-based world, like cooperatives have already worked for many things, like food stores or restaurants and even like hotels and stuff, right? Why shouldn't all of that be maybe possible, right? With Web3 as well. If I start a new cooperative, I just issue a new DAO, right? And I'm done, right? So I think some people will actually just move over and use DAOs together with the physical world.
Yeah, sure. I will add actually one aspect of the Web3 technology that makes it probably a bit different from all of the technology upgrades we had in the last years. Web3 has the unique characteristic of being like a culture tech. So it's a technology that is very related to the culture, is very related to the fabric of society. And the spread of such technology can depend on many things. So to make it simple, I would like you to think and consider two factors. So for instance, when a use case speaks to, let's say, the aspirations or speaks to the fandom base of the users, such as NFTs when they came on the blockchain, that's a big push for a technology like Web3. That helps grow essentially the user, the adoption, because it's something that adds to the culture, let's say, and something that adds to how people interact with each other. But then also there's other negative effects that happen in our societies, and this also can push Web3 growth versus Web2. And so you look, for example, at central banks failing. You look at what's happening in governments like, nearby here in Asia recently. All of these events really push people to start thinking about self-custody, to think about ownership of their assets and how they really can control those and participate in a decentralized economy around the world, because your government may not exist or is not functioning as it should. And so both negative events as well as positive use cases that directly impact our society, the way we behave. COVID forced us all to get much closer to the internet, interact more digitally. All of these really will decide in the next couple of years whether Web3 will get that uptick on top of Web2. Of course, there is a lot of other items, financial revenue models and so on, but those are normal business growth vectors. But I really believe the culture aspect of it is what could push it 10-folds, 100-folds. We don't know. So we'll see what the events happen.
That's a very realistic comment. Wilson.
Okay, let's talk about the Web3 experience. My first exchange account, like on DFINITY, it took me like, after I registered KYC, it took me like 2 months. Then I received an email that told me, oh, you're verified. I already forget I opened an account. And I also had experience my like decentralized wallet got stolen, and takes experience to learn how to use like cold wallets or things like that. It's a very painful process for general people really go and step into Web3 in a fast manner. So I think the opportunity lies in the next 6 to 12 months is on Web 2.5. So the opportunity, we've been talking to many Web2 companies, large conglomerates, internet companies. Those are the guys, they're urged to come in, but they're in an awkward position. So the parent company they have a large business in existing Web 2. And then if they want to move into Web 3, so who's going to take the lead? Are they going to initiate a new entity, or is it going to be an old leader to do that? But I think the opportunity actually lies in Web 2.5, and actually those companies, the second layer of people may have the opportunity to live there. Because firstly, they're younger and more energetic. Secondly, they haven't made the money, so they have the urge to work harder. And then they have the passion to do that. And then maybe they're younger, so they see more into Web3. But why we say maybe the 2.5 is the opportunity. But we see many cases, the interesting part is that their company, they say, okay, let's move to Web 3.0, but they only move 2.2, 2.3. They're trying to move a bit, but it will be an awkward position. That means the Web 2 user, they see it's, okay, not much changes. Like, why I try? For the Web 3 guys, they will think, oh, it's still a Web 2 product. They don't really buy in. So these are really awkward position, I think the Web 2 guys should avoid. So when you really want to do it, you have to step at least further than 2.5. So I have to 2.5, 2.6. That somewhere is okay. So at least you made a bold move, and people really see it's like Web3 guys see, oh, you guys seems like understand about it. We also trying to play some real games, not just click and earn or earn to play. It's something really, it's like pay to play to earn, something like that. Then they say, okay, it's fun to play with. They're happy. But then the traditional Web 2 guys, they will say, oh, apart from really playing the games, we can engage, and some of the things we can earn and participate in Web 3. Okay, they both attract to each other. So I think for a period of maybe 6 to 12 months, we'll experience something like that. That will open up the gate for those guys to enter into Web 3. So give them some time, and if you need some help, contact all of us. I think we can be helpful, and for all of your adoption into Web 3.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think Bitcoin or Ethereum is valuable because it's a strong consensus. Another word of say consensus is how many people trust or use it. I think the NFT made an outstanding contribution to the industry because it brings other industry like musicians, artists, sports, and luxury begin to adopt blockchain. So in order to help the Web3 keep growing, we need to strengthen the consensus. So the project transformed from traditional industry come with natural business logic, loyal user, and they help educate Web3. They will bring billions of users to Web3. They may not create like a revolutionary product like Uniswap, but the next Uniswap will created by one of the billions users.
Great. We have about 1 minute left. So maybe a very quick one is, how long do you think we can see the real Web3 going? Starting from Alex.
It's a little bit hard to say. It depends how you define it. I actually don't know if I agree that Web 2 is the opposite of Web 3. I think they will coexist. But I believe that within 5 years, it will be more common to own your digital assets, for example, in a game, yourself through Web3 than to own it through a centralized entity.
Well, I think it's already happening, right? First dApps are Web3 already, and I guess we would just see it speed up and more things happening like that.
Sure. Marouen?
4 years, 2 months, and 7 days.
I like the numbers. You give me the seconds too. I mean, that's reasonable. I mean, Wilson.
No, it's back to the point, sorry. It depends a lot on what's going to happen in our world in the next couple of years, and that will accelerate or slow. Yeah.
Agree. Wilson.
Well, I suggest if you take a look back on the Web 2 major company, Apple, Facebook, Google, like Amazon, all those, look at their monthly charts. Look at their past 15 years monthly chart back to 2000, and maybe 2000. So 15, 20 years monthly chart. You will see the growth of the Web 2. So that will give you a clear vision where we're growing to. But I think we will shorten the process maybe to half. So I think the prolong the process will take another 7 to 10 years to develop into maturity. But I think the recent 2 to 3 years is somewhere most exciting to deal with. So enjoying the game in the Web3. Yeah.
I will say 4 to 5 years when the CK proof will be more mature.
I just want to sum up. I think the key thing about Web3 and so forth is a mindset of how we look at it. Perhaps in the next 2 to 3 years, this is the most disruptive period of time where you can see a lot of good changes and innovation. And I strongly feel that NFT is a very good entry point, for the development of Web3. And last but not least, I think staying united, staying with the correct mindset will definitely help the industry to grow. So with that, thanks everybody, for being here, and thanks to my fellow panelists for being here. So if you need anything, just ping any one of us. We will be very happy to give you a good reply. Thank you.